Estate planning with your retirement account. I'm Gary Anderson, financial advisor, Anderson Advisors.
And I'm Kevin Tharp, elder law and estate planning attorney.
Kevin, I'm going to bring one issue up right off the bat here. Estate planning and retirement account. Estate planning and retirement account. I think sometimes people get confused as to who is supposed to be doing estate planning and who is supposed to be helping with your retirement account, your financial planning part. And it's something that makes sense because there's so many conflicting things out there that tell you that, and you see it even with commercials. So and so and so and so, investment advisors or retirement advisors or financial planners and estate planners. And that bothers me. And it bothers me because typically you can have the best financial advisor in the world. You can have somebody who has done everything they possibly can do to help you get to where you're going in retirement. Those people are very good at what they do. On the other hand, they're not trained to be estate planners. Don't ever let your retirement planner, your financial planner, or your financial advisor tell you they can help you with that estate planning too, or want to review your estate planning documents. That's not our job as financial advisors. That's why we let you do things like that. That's why we send people to you whenever they have questions on this, because you need a good, honest, and educated answer on your estate plan. It needs to be, the estate plan and the retirement plan can be completely together. They can be fully coordinated. But let's make sure that you're getting your estate plan from an expert like you, Kevin, who does this thing.
And Gary, I agree because I hear this all the time from clients, and we're working through their estate plan. And as I said in the previous segment, and you said as well, the engine of everybody's retirement account, typically one of the main assets that most people own is either a home or a retirement account. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a 401k or 403b. Maybe it's an IRA. But those are some of the most common assets that people own. And our generation and the generation before us really had a lot of pension plans, as you talked about earlier, because historically that's what was universally offered by most employers. And most people in the previous generation, our grandparents' generation, they worked for the same employer for 30, 40 years, and then they retired. Well, now we're seeing a different trend, as you said with another client. They may have worked for 7 different employers and accumulated money in a 401k. It becomes one of the main assets that we have. And so there's a lot of times where you're getting advice because this 401k retirement account has several different components to it. While living, it has some investment components. That's where your financial advisor is giving you recommendations about how to invest it and work those different investments together as a integral part of your retirement plan. But there's also a tax component. So people are talking to their CPA and they're telling their CPA, I contributed to my 401k plan. So you get a tax deduction and it affects your income taxes. They know, and talking with their CPA when they get into retirement and they start approaching age 70 or 72, that they have to start taking money out of it and it's going to affect taxes. And then when they pass and leave it to somebody, they're going to pay taxes eventually. So taxes are an integral part of that as well. And then finally, it is an estate planning asset. It is an asset that we know this. Many people have it, and something's going to happen to it when you die. So estate planning is just simply boils down to this question. What's going to happen to my assets when I die? Now let's fill it in specifically. What's going to happen to my retirement account when I die? A huge majority of people think a couple of things that are actually incorrect. They're incomplete or incorrect. Here's the first thing I hear. Well, my will take care of that, right? Absolutely not. Your will rarely, if ever, takes care of your retirement account. Why? Because your retirement account has a form of titling that's universal to regardless of how it's invested. What is that titling? Beneficiary designation. So if I have a will that says I leave everything to my favorite co-host and financial advisor, Gary Anderson, but I've designated my wife as the beneficiary of my retirement account, then who's going to get that retirement account when I die?
I think that's going to be missing.
Absolutely. Because beneficiary designation title trumps the will. Title always determines what happens to an asset when I die. And yet so many people think, well, I have my estate plan taken care of. My will is going to take care of my retirement account, right? Nope. It's how it's titled. So one of the things that I would look to in retirement planning with the retirement account is look to who your beneficiary is. And this is the second thing that I see most commonly. People are working with a financial advisor, and the financial advisor will make recommendations on who your beneficiary should be or should not be. I hear this all the time. Just make it your spouse and then your kids. That's what everybody does. That's what you should do. Okay? Well, beneficiary designation is a form of titling. You've just given somebody advice on titling, and that could end up, number one, negating their will. Maybe they just spent money with a lawyer to draw up a will, and that will is going to have no impact on that retirement account because the financial advisor told them how to title it. And they've now had a legal impact. Or they'll say, well, if you're not really sure, or if your kids are minors, just name your estate as the beneficiary. I've seen that on a regular basis as well. Too many times. Mm-hmm. And that is a huge mistake in so many different ways. I've also heard people say this, especially with my clients that I'm working with. Oh, you don't need to name a trust as a beneficiary. Don't do that. It complicates things. As a financial advisor, if you're telling somebody who their beneficiary should be, you're giving them legal advice. Because if you tell somebody, oh, just make it your spouse, and you pass away and your spouse survives you but is completely incapacitated, which would have happened with my parents. My dad's biggest asset was his retirement account. If he had passed away first, he had at one point had my mother named as a beneficiary. Why? Because that's what his financial guy told him to do. That IRA money would have gone to my mother and it would not have been protected. It would have had a legal impact on their plan, on their estate plan. Mm-hmm. You cannot tell a person who should or should not be their beneficiary and not give legal advice.
And your dad, the surviving spouse, would have been the one to have had to pay the consequences for what had been done.
Absolutely.
Had they listened to that financial advisor who had given them that advice.
Absolutely. So the key to estate planning with a retirement account is get your beneficiary designation coordinated with your wishes. And your wishes are in a legal document. If your wishes are in a legal document called a trust, you can coordinate that together, and it will not impact who gets it, how they get it. It will have no changes in the taxes as well. And that's one of the simplest things you can do as a part of your estate plan, especially if you have a trust. Make your trust the beneficiary of that IRA. It's not going to complicate things or increase taxes.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience as a financial advisor, Kevin, it does not complicate things. We do this every day for people. That trust is the beneficiary of a retirement plan, and it works just fine. It works very well because there's a lot of safety in that trust, in that type of planning that you can't get anywhere else. And so this is something that we love to see, as a matter of fact, is that trust dictating what's going to happen to something after something happens to you.
Absolutely. And folks can reach me, and it's a complimentary consultation to all of our listeners. When you call in, just tell the staff that you are a radio listener, and they'd be happy to set up a complimentary consultation, either in person or by phone. First point of contact is 866-253-6994. And if you can't remember the number, remember the name, KevinTharp.com.
You're listening to Truth in Planning on North Georgia's News Talk AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.